Oh, here you are. It's another round of Mortgages and BS with Tom Smith right over yonder.
Hey, and I was late today, too, wasn't I?
You were a little bit running behind. He sent me constant updates via the text. I'm here. First one was, no, it was expletive traffic.
Yeah, it was expletive traffic.
Yeah, and then there were some, args and some, I'm here. And then he walked in there.
And of course I wasn't texting while I was driving because that would be a very bad thing to do, so kids don't do that.
Kids.
But it was frustrating. I mean, I normally come up a different way. I took 494 to 35 today, and what a dumb mistake that was.
Yeah, well, lesson learned.
Drove down Nicollet, almost dropped out of the car over here on 35th and just decided to go to Pat's Tap instead of waiting for the light. So.
We should do a show at Pat's Tap. Bobby Jensen and I have visited Pat's Tap. You and I have not visited Pat's Tap, so we need to do something, a little something, little Mortgages and BS show at Pat's Tap. Let's make that a part of the plan.
I could do that. I'm all in for it.
Bobby Jensen joining in on Mortgages and BS with Tom and BT here on the Alive and Social Network.
Gentlemen, hi. Good to see you. Good to be here.
There's something cool here, BT. I just found Bobby used to live about half a mile
we just
from
found
me.
out all of this stuff.
What's going on there? Really? You guys were that
We're
close?
Apple
Neighbors?
Valdonians.
Yeah.
I don't know what
back
we
in the
would be
day.
called.
He was moving out when I was moving in, so I don't know if I took the values down or took them up. I can't figure that one out.
I had a guy tell me, so we bailed as soon as we heard he was going to ruin the neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, it's all about the neighborhood when
It's
it
all
comes
about
to,
the neighborhood,
when it
right?
comes to people and when it comes to mortgages and what are you going to do with your house? And
Exactly.
Bobby, have you ever in all the years with Grow with Care? Have you ever had anybody call in live on the Saturday morning show or ask, hey man, I want to put some lights in my basement, and I'm just wondering what
They were growing tomatoes, right?
What
to grow tomatoes.
what kind of air quotes
Tomatoes can I grow in a closet?
In a
with lights?
Yes.
Somebody's picked something up from that at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, I did have a couple of people ask that, and then usually live when I'm at a show or a home and garden show, there's always the off on the side. Hey, I got a friend. I got a friend of mine asked me to ask you this question.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Well, you know what the funny part is? It's always a friend.
It's always a
friend.
friend.
Needs this. A friend hurts when he pees. I mean, it's always a friend.
So, Doctor, let me ask you about that. I get the same thing with concert tickets. So, a friend of mine
wanted to know, could you
perhaps find in your heart of hearts?
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Poor, he's a young man.
The good ones always fess up. Yes, they do.
I just say I want him.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, Tom
says, "Yo,
I'll pay for him. I just kind of get him."
Tom's unabashed about it, and I appreciate that. Yeah. Just bring it on. You got something
going
for
to
me?
Bette Midler. I have tickets for Bette Midler.
Are you going to see Bette?
Oh yeah, it's like the second or third time. I think.
Oh, I bet you she's a great show.
She puts on a good show.
Yeah,
she's cheaper in the Stones though. I'm going to the Stones.
Yeah,
are you going to do that?
Yeah, I picked up a couple of tickets. It was one of those things where somehow
I've had you pegged for a Deadhead.
For some reason, it's one of those bands.
Speaking
I've never
of growing
seen.
with lights in the closet,
right
man.
on.
Well, and a little AC/DC, little Skinner. Yeah, I mean, but the Stones. I mean, we grew up with the Stones.
Sure,
it's like
absolutely
kind of a bucket list thing. You almost
Yeah,
have to
I was
go
never a
see
Stone guy though. I was never okay.
Stones guy. Stones guy.
We're
good for you. I did not go ahead and be proactive about it. I am saying though that if something comes around or there's some tickets there and somebody overbought or who knows what.
Well, I had a situation like that.
I'll
I knew a guy that had the tickets, and this guy didn't want to keep all the tickets, so I bought the tickets from a guy I knew, and I did get them for face value though.
Yeah,
so.
that's what I'm
Not
talking
bad,
about.
But still, wow! I could not believe how expensive they are.
Oh, God,
Everything.
yeah.
They're all expensive.
Yeah.
Now. Everything's.
What
expensive.
happened to those $9 concerts we used to go to back in the 70s?
I used to work around the corner at a bar called the Mushroom from the Fillmore East.
Oh wow!
And would go to concerts for like $8.
Oh sure,
$6.
Yeah.
See like, oh man, crazy things. Everybody,
big bands.
you could ever think of.
Sure,
unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
$4.
What I can remember.
I was say like Tommy Dorsey or what, Bobby?
No.
Hey, be nice to our guest. He came here to talk about curb appeal when it comes to homes and home values.
But isn't it amazing? I mean, we went to stuff back in the 60s and the 70s or even the 80s, how much cheaper it was to do something and how much more entertainment you got for your
but
value.
you also paid 30 cents for a gallon of gas at
That's
that
true.
time. So it's probably all relative. My kids got me a shirt for Christmas that said, I may be old, but I saw all the cool bands.
That's nice. I like that.
There you go.
I like that
one.
Yeah, but we're going to get you one of those soon. Listen to me.
Well,
I'm older than him by a year.
I know. I've got a couple months to go before I start getting all the discounts. That 55 thing. So I got a couple
you want
months
to go?
to
What's
go.
4 o'clock? You want to go out for dinner?
Yeah.
My wife's already
I
late.
can get us in, no problem.
Get us in early.
Heck, BT, you can too, right?
I can too. Yeah,
I got the card.
Yeah, well, I've been in denial about the card, but I'm changing. I'm
Get the
kind of
card.
changing. I'm
The
getting
card's
changing
my
my tune.
That card is great.
Cheap is
hotel
cheap,
room,
you know what I mean?
$15.
hotel room, cars, whatever you want to rent. That thing gets you some money
I
back.
know. I'm changing my tune on that now. I'm embracing it.
There you go. You got to.
You gotta
well,
just
'cause
let
you got
go.
no choice.
Yeah,
Well, as you
exactly.
get older, you get
Seriously.
cheaper. So, of course, everything you can save, you want to do it.
Yeah, and waving my fist at the kids and all that.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Those whippersnappers.
Yeah, indeed. Good to have you here, Bobby. How many homes have you had over the years there, Jensen? So, going from New Jersey, I mean, actual, not rentals, but, homes you've owned.
Okay, 1, 2 in New Jersey, 1, 2, 3 in Minnesota, 5.
Okay, 5 homes, and
homes,
yeah.
yes.
So you've visited mortgage guys time and time again across the years. Yeah.
I used to be afraid of them, but I'm not afraid anymore.
We're not anything to be afraid of. I mean, we just take your money.
I
Well,
know,
actually, we give you
but
the money.
You give us money, But
Yeah,
no, I've had many mortgages. It seems, you know what I mean, 1s and 2s.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, being that you've had property in New Jersey and in Minnesota, I mean, obviously it's been over a period of time. What do you think have been differences you've seen from the houses that why they sell? I mean, why does a house sell in New Jersey versus a house in Minnesota? Like, is there something special that you've seen?
Well, I mean, the thing in New Jersey, it's older. You know what I mean? The houses where we were, the trees are more mature. They're bigger. They've been there forever.
Charm.
The lots are smaller. And I'm not talking about the suburban spread, but that first tier, it's just different than it is here. It's more mature and smaller. A lot of smaller lots than we would have here.
I would think part of that's probably based on the fact, too. I mean, with all the development, you had your development coming from that coast coming to the Midwest. Everybody lived out there. You built based on how you could. And the homes are older. I mean, you probably have, when you go to New England and stuff like that, or even Jersey, you see the older stone homes, the older architecture, things like that. I think it's kind of cool,
I mean,
actually.
we were a Revolutionary War town. I mean,
Wow.
that's where we were. It was like, Morristown, Caldwell, that whole area was, Revolutionary War stuff happened all over the place.
So a little
it
bit of
was
history with some of those houses
It was
as well.
pretty cool. It was really pretty
Washington
cool, the history.
slept here.
I had a house, the Day House, D-E-Y, was not far from mine where Washington slept.
Is that right?
Also
With the
around
sign
the
out
corner
there, the whole thing?
was
Yeah.
the Soprano house, too. I got to bring that up, too.
Is that right? Really?
Oh, that would be cool.
He was from the town that we lived in. The
No.
guy who invented, the guy
David
who wrote
Chase.
it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
David's a Jersey guy.
Yeah. I knew
So
that.
they would
but-
show the show, and it would be like Bloomfield Avenue, where where we used to live off of Bloomfield
Cool.
Avenue. And hey, I've been in that restaurant, and stuff like that.
Right. I've sat on a folding lawn chair out in front of that
Yeah.
dry cleaners.
Hey, I had a leisure suit, man.
Hey, leisure suits are in.
I had to get rid of all my chains when I came here. I hocked all my chains. I mean, I had $1 billion worth of gold or something.
That was a good fashion move, too.
Yeah, it
though.
was.
And plus, some extra money to put a down payment on the house in Minnesota.
So then out there, to know a guy who knows a guy was
I
actually
got
a good
guys.
thing.
I
That was a
got
good
guys.
thing. Okay.
I got plenty of guys.
Yeah, there's always
If you
guys
need
out
anything,
there.
Call me.
All right.
Very good. Very good. Curb appeal when it comes to homes. I mean, do you get questions like that too? Because I'm sure that that's one thing that when people obviously drive up, it's
Right.
what are they looking at right away?
Well, I mean, what I tell people is you sometimes have to drive up to your house like you've never been there because you see the forest, you don't see the forest because of the trees. There, you need to look at your house one day like you've never seen it before and see what other people see when they pull up to your house. And then you know what to take care of. And, I apologize for my industry. For some ungodly reason, years ago, we thought a pointy thing, a couple of round things, another pointy thing, your door, and then the same thing on the other side was the way landscaping was. And things have changed drastically over the years. It's depth now. We used to stick into that little craziness. We'd have you hack back everything every year so you could walk down your sidewalk. So, curb appeal is a matter of putting the right thing in the right place. That's all.
I love that idea, and I don't think enough people do that, especially when they're selling their house. Is that removing themselves and looking at it
And
fresh?
looking at it,
Yeah.
I mean, what's the first thing you see? Because that's probably, as you know, probably the first thing everybody else sees.
Well, and that's
when
one of
they
the
get
things,
there.
too. When you look at real estate and they're selling, they talk about the curb appeal of the home. I mean, how does it look when you drive up to it? The shrubs,
Right.
the flowers, how is it landscaped? It's a big deal because a lot of people don't want to have to do it themselves, so they're counting on whoever just owned that house did the work for them.
But then the other thing is sometimes too extensive of a garden where people buy it and they have no idea what to do, and 2 years later it's falling apart, and they don't garden like you, Tom, and take care of things and do stuff. So there's kind of a weird little balance in there.
Well, and that is the one thing, like you say, you got to take care of a garden. I mean, if you're not out there pulling the weeds and making sure the stuff's not overgrown in an area, I mean, if you planted a bunch of mint in one area, I mean, you're going to have to cut that stuff out and kill it at some point.
Yeah, it's going to spread like the dickens.
Well, I know that feeling that you're talking about, and you guys have both, Tom helped me and my wife finance the big landscape we did in our backyard.
And
some
that's a
years
big
ago.
landscape in your
and
backyard.
then Bobby used to. Tom, I don't think you've seen it, have you? I mean, some pictures.
I've seen the pictures.
never
but
been
I've never
there
actually
live?
seen
Well,
it.
I mean,
No,
we'll
BT,
amend
I mean,
that.
I've known BT 15 years. You think he'd invite me over for a beer?
Yeah,
Well,
well,
sorry to
you
hear
know
that.
why? Because I'm so embarrassed by the curb appeal. I don't want you to look
The
at
front
the
of
front
the
of the
I'll,
house. The front of the
I'll
house
come
looks
from the
beautiful.
back. I'll come from the
Right,
back
right,
side.
we'll let you into the back side.
So did you
Yeah.
ever finish that kitchen?
Oh yeah, that got all done. Yeah, so because that is what happened there. I
Right.
mean, you know, we devoted some money to the kitchen, and then we had that opportunity to do the backyard project. So that all that money went there.
And folks,
then,
let me tell you, a backyard project is a giant swimming / water
Pond,
feature
yeah.
pond in the backyard. It's beautiful.
Well, I appreciate that, but you know, you brought up the whole.
a lot
Be
of
careful
work.
of how big you make
a lot of
something,
work.
because all the work that I've done on that garden and that my wife has done on that garden since then is to make it far less intensive. You know, to put in more. I mean, I love hostas. This is an alpine landscape, so it really hostas are not an alpine plant, but you know, it's now more of a garden.
It had gnomes everywhere.
we had
It's like the
gnomes
Garden
there.
of Eden, based on the pictures I saw. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
it's-
gorgeous.
it is
BT
lovely.
was
It's
gorgeous.
gorgeous.
It was.
Yeah.
But what I'm
gorgeous.
trying to do is make it less, less work. Obviously.
Isn't everybody trying to do that?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
even the most. I mean, you, Tom, we were talking before. You know, you like to weed. You like to be out there in the putts, but you know, you don't like weeds.
I hate weeds.
I mean, so everybody's trying to do gardening the
Yeah,
most
you're right.
simplistic way that they can do it.
well, it's like
even
we were
if,
talking
even
too.
if
I
you like
mean,
being out there, yeah.
like we were talking about making it more simplistic. Like I was saying, everybody talks about planting this flower and planting that flower. I'm a big perennial guy. I hate annuals. My wife likes annuals because you get different types of flowers and stuff like that. But I want to plant it. And I want to forget about it. And so I love perennials because that's a simple way to go. But you watch these people out there, and they get their pansies or whatever it is, and they're planting them out there, and they're all pretty flowers, but they got to dig them, put them in every year. And to me, I just don't want to do that.
And the difference now is that there's a lot more choices in perennials than there used to be. I mean, when I had my first garden center, there was, you sold hostas. You sold like maybe 30 types of perennials. Now the choices between the natives and the newer varieties.
I can
is
kill a
just so
hosta,
much.
by the way. I've done it.
Yeah, that's tough to do.
Hey, that's really
That's
tough.
way
to
tough.
do. Well, Tom's got a green thumb and an occasional brown one. It would appear.
Oh, Tom's got a good.
Well,
green
what's
thumb.
funny is, I mean, I do a lot of I do a lot of vegetable gardening is what I really do, and I landscape I landscaped my entire front yard, and we had help
Nice.
with our backyard. We had somebody come in and help us out a little bit because, Bobby, you know kind of where I live now. I've got
I
the
do
different
know you
hills and
exactly.
stuff, so I had to have it tiered and do some special things up there. But
Big boulders.
I've done a lot of it myself. But yeah, I mean, you want to keep the low maintenance, and I'm lucky that most of the stuff I have is pretty decent and it's not overgrown. And I think like we were talking, it's what was it, the lazy gardener? We got to find ways for these lazy gardeners to be able to take care of their house and make it look
And
nice.
make it look good.
Exactly.
And make it look good.
I think there's a show for that coming up, isn't there?
There might be.
We
There
got
might
that
be.
going on the Alive and Social Network.
We
That's
might
why it's
have
good to have
something like
Bobby
that.
here. Indeed.
Like, why don't you put a plant in that's going to grow to the right size and right shape in the right location so you don't have to do anything with it? People they cram plants in because they want it to look finished right away. Well, that's not the way nature works. They got to grow. They got to
grow.
be. So, I mean, some of the parts of curb appeal is maybe removing a few things and letting something grow to its shape instead of being so overcrowded that it just doesn't look right. Because when you look at a landscape, it should make sense to you. It should just work. And what happens is one of this and one of that and this and that, and all of a sudden it just doesn't come together.
Well, and the other thing too is you got people that plant stuff, some sort of a flower or whatever. They don't know what the flower spreads, right?
Right.
So they're planting their stuff, and all of a sudden this flower is spreading. It's coming up in the middle of a bush.
right.
At least know what you're planting and what it's going to do, right?
That's the whole key, is actually knowing what the plant does.
and knowing what it's going to do too.
Right, down the line. How big
Yeah.
is it going to get?
Absolutely.
What's the conditions?
What's funny is a lot of those little stickers when you buy the plant actually tell you.
You know,
How big
I
it'll
was,
be.
Isn't that a kind of weird
I was
concept?
talking, they spend millions of dollars on those things, and everybody throws them away without reading them.
I
And
put them
it'll
right.
tell you.
They're right they go in the ground with the plant. that I
Well,
plant.
we're going to have to go to his house. You may not invite him to yours, but maybe we
I
should
know
go over
it.
to his and check it out.
Sounds like a Mortgages and BS show from Tom's backyard.
Well,
Yeah,
now, the
that's-
funny part is not he knows where I live. He's going to probably show up on my doorstep Sunday.
I'm going to check it out.
Oh, I'm coming with you.
All right, we'll do that.
bring your
make it
trunk.
happen.
Field
Yeah.
trip.
Pool opens on Monday. Just bring your trunks.
Perfect. Tom, I got something to bring up here on the Mortgages and BS show as we dive into mortgages. Last couple of shows we've been talking about, down payments on homes and how you don't have to have 20% down.
Right.
I've got some ideas here that I picked up that help people put together, just down money, though. For a lot of folks, young people especially, but not necessarily so, just getting that down payment money, even a small amount that you might need, can be a little bit difficult. And so some of these ideas popped up, and I wanted to share some of these with our listenership and then also get your reaction on some of these. The first one on this list is down payment assistance programs. Those are often out there that people don't even know about.
They are, and the most popular one here in Minnesota is Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, or MHFA, and that is an income-based type program, and they do have down payment assistance as much as $7,500. So it's a great way to look at something on your first home, and it's a great rate.
Now with MHFA, what it is then is a separate loan that you get from MHFA. Does it wrap into your mortgage then, or are you paying two different notes, or what are you doing?
Actually, there's two different types. The one that we tell most people to do, it's what they call a deferred loan. It does not incur any interest. It just sits out there, and then when you sell your house, you pay that loan off. But it doesn't incur any interest whatsoever.
So it's on the backside of everything.
You make no payments, no interest on it.
And is there, like you said, there's a financial matter to it, where how much you make?
Right. It's based on, when you get to the down payment assistance stuff, it's based on how much you make, based on the size of your family, some of that kind of stuff. So there's some restrictions on it. But I'll tell you, for a lot of the first-time buyers that are buying properties and they're younger, these are great programs for them because, A, they're able to buy a house, they get the down payment assistance, and they can acquire a house for most times nothing out of their own pocket.
And you don't pay it off until you sell a house.
Not until you sell the house. Or refinance.
The first refinance.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
okay.
right.
That's
Well,
not
that
bad,
would
no?
make sense
Either
too.
way.
But yeah,
Either way.
and very often you're at a different income level and everything else. Home has gained some value, so you can wrap that note probably into the refi.
Right. And in some cases, there's some other nonprofit organizations, not as many as there were before, that offer down payment assistance, and as well as some employer-based assistance programs that they'll do for their employees.
Yeah. The next bunch here, they kind of go together. Putting your savings on autopilot, just doing a little something that you just don't see. Setting aside an established automatic draw on your account. Also setting up an account that you can't touch, that sort of thing, a dedicated account. And these two are also really nice. Windfalls, pay bumps, tax refunds, cash gifts that you get from people, a work bonus that you might get. Dedicate those to the down payment fund, and then any raise that you might get. I mean, if you're kind of used to living with the budget that you have on the money you're making, if the boss gives you a raise,
Don't spend
don't
the raise.
spend it. Dedicate that to the down
And what's
payment.
weird about that is it kind of goes back to where a lot of these people think they need such a large down payment. They'll actually set up an account and start putting money into it, thinking that they need the 20% down.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the way, they find out, hey, I don't need as much. I've actually got enough money to buy the house already. And
Yeah.
they do that. They have their separate savings. A couple other things, too, now is, pulling some money from our 401k loan.
You can lend it to yourself, right?
Yeah.
You can lend it to yourself.
as a loan,
And,
right.
and in most cases now, even if you lend it to yourself, in the old days, we used to have to count the payment against you. Now, if we can provide the right evidence, which we can in almost every case, you don't have to count the
Wow.
payment against you because it's done pre-tax. Or in some 401k or accounts like that, you can just take a withdrawal to buy a house, and then you're not taxed the same way as you were taking a withdrawal because you're using it to buy a home.
Oh, because it's a home purchase. Okay. So you don't get the big dings that you get
don't
before
get
you're
the big dings,
59
nope.
and a half and all of that kind of stuff.
If it's, as long as it's for a home, you typically don't get the ding.
Oh,
Correct?
that's a
That's
good thing.
tremendous.
Yeah, I never knew about that. So those allocations can happen that way. Selling stuff is another way to do it. I mean,
We all got stuff.
Yeah, we got stuff, and everybody probably has too much stuff. We had a killer garage sale at our house 2 years ago. I think we came away with like $1,200-$1,300. I mean, and if you got another few thousand here, and then in the bank, and you add $1,200 to it, suddenly you've got a pretty decent down payment.
And what's interesting is I've seen people sell. I had a guy that I did a loan for a while back. He worked at a music company, and he actually had all these different musical instruments. And he would buy them that were in rough shape, and he'd resell them. So he'd buy something for $100 and turn around and sell it for $300 and $400. And he'd sold like 7 different musical instruments for over a couple of grand. The only thing we have to do when we do something like that is we have to document there was an ownership in there to show where the money comes from, because they're kind of weird about, when you have deposits coming in, it might be some of those guys from Jersey, just dropping some cash in and laundry in it. So we have the paper trail, but it's typical big things are easy to do. Like, somebody sells a car, a motorcycle, things like that. That's usually pretty easy to do. You've got to, you got a title that you're transferring, so it's easy. I had a guy sell a bottle of wine a while back, an expensive bottle of wine for $2,500.
Wow.
We pretty much had to go off the fact that he was we had to accept his word and not call him a liar, and we were able to do it. But that's the big thing. If you do sell something, just make sure that if you need to paper trail it, you can do it.
That you have some kind of documentation.
Now, what about, relatives giving you money or something like
that? Gifts are still probably one of the biggest ones for first-time buyers. We actually see gifts now coming out of wedding money where somebody gets married and they document as much as they can, like especially with the checks, that they got this money for their wedding and then they deposit it, and they can actually use their wedding money to go buy a house. We see that a lot now. Or just a regular gift. Mom and dad or grandma, grandpa want to give you some money. All we have to do is have some paperwork filled out, document it, and we're good to go.
No,
paper trail.
What's the need for that paper trail, though? I mean, why? I mean, you got money, you got money. I mean, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around.
Well,
that.
It's gotten worse, to be honest. It's gotten worse since 9/11. The reasons behind the paper trail is to make sure, A, that the person didn't borrow the money against it and has an unsecured loan out there.
Okay, all right.
They want to make sure that the seller isn't giving the buyer money on the backside. Okay. The weird part is the person that's gifting the money. For say example, I want to help my kids out and I want to gift my son $10,000. Nothing says I can't go take a loan out to gift him the $10,000. I just have to show that I had the $10,000 in my account to gift him.
Wow.
That's the goofy thing about it. The other part of it now too, and it goes with like the deposits, is since 9/11, they want to make sure there's no money coming in to the United States that's coming from sources we don't want it to come from.
All right, okay. Now I can see it a little bit more.
That's really the biggest one. But the main things initially were the fact that it wasn't inducements and that it wasn't borrowed money on behalf of the buyer.
Yeah. We covered already a couple more of these that you guys brought up in conversation. I mean, you might have a boat and you're really attached to your boat. You might have a motorcycle, you're really attached to the motorcycle. But if you're looking to get a house or do something where you need a down payment, you might just have to let go of that for for the time being, and then revisit that purchase or that part of your life in the future.
That's an interesting one too, PT. Let's say you own it free and clear, or maybe you owe some money on it. You can always refinance an asset. So you could refinance your car, refinance a cycle, refinance a boat, or refinance another property and pull equity out of that to use for buying your house you want to buy, because you've borrowed against a secured asset.
All right.
So it's secured by that. So that's allowed. That's an unusual one. I can't just go take a $3,000 signature loan though at the bank for the down payment, but I could borrow against my car.
But you can borrow against your car.
And again, there's that paper trail because you're
Just
showing
paper
it
trail,
right there.
exactly.
Same paper trail, and if you've got investments like stocks, mutual funds, other taxable investments that you can tap into, as opposed to the 401ks and stuff, even though you can take a loan out against those, you might want to think about liquidating some of those. Help from the family, we talked about that. Last but not least, a lot of employers have down payment programs. A lot of major employers. The military often has programs like that for folks, and other employers often, not all, but in some states and some employers, there's help out there.
How does that work, Tom?
Well, it is. I said that earlier with the down payment assistance. There are some larger employment companies out there that have programs set up for their employees because they know that home ownership, there's a lot of pride in home ownership, and that's important to their employees. So to help them be able to buy homes, they do set up things that they can utilize. You don't see it as much in this area, and I don't know why we don't, but there are employers that have it. And I would tell somebody, hey, if you're thinking you want to buy a house, check that out, first of all. I mean, I would say that. The thing about the VA or with the veterans, I mean, I'm a vet.
I'm a vet,
I don't know if Air Force. Well, my dad was Air Force, so I guess I have to count it.
Slam!
Wow,
Now, my dad was
Navy,
26 years in the Air Force. I
Navy
have to
versus
count Air
Air
Force.
Force, yeah.
Wow.
But the nice thing about a VA loan is you really don't need any assistance because it's a zero down product. But the funny part about it is when you're getting discharged, they're telling you what your benefits are, right? And I don't mean to be mean, but if you're a vet, yes, you can get a VA loan with zero down, but you do have to have a job and qualify.
Yeah.
I have actually over the years had people call me up and they just thought it's a guaranteed loan. And you're trying to explain this to them because the government, some of these guys aren't listening when they get out, and they just hear it's a guaranteed loan, so they think they can come in and buy something with no job. But it's really the only zero down product left out there, except for rural housing product.
Okay.
So if you're a vet, I mean, I've used my VA twice. I'd use it all day long. It's the cheapest way to get in a house.
Yep, we tapped into our house using the VA. Absolutely. Yeah.
Bobby, are you a vet by chance?
No, sir. I was in college during that time.
He's a veteran of the culture.
And then
wars.
I got wait a minute. And then I got a very high number when they had the lottery.
Indeed.
I did.
Yeah.
I was in the 222 or something like that.
See,
Oh, wow.
I just missed the draft.
You're
guys.
staying home on that number. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like I went down and tried to volunteer immediately,
Yeah.
and they said we can't do it. I said okay, thanks.
You know, it's interesting too, because not to jump off track, but what that period of time is, if you were in college, they wouldn't draft you if you were in college.
right.
Yeah.
Right. In that. Yeah,
And my
exactly.
mom was so when I was in that age and was I was the only male in the family, so she was like, "Well, they can't send you to a war zone." I said, "I'm just gonna instead of going to college, I'll just enlist and get it over with. That way, it's done, and I never have to worry about it." And you know, it wasn't a bad deal, but I probably should have just gone ahead and gone to college.
Well, you got that nuclear background going for you.
Oh,
which
come
ain't
on
bad.
now, don't start on that
Ooh,
again.
sub guys, submariner.
He was a sub guy. Yep, he was.
Were you in Connecticut?
I went to Groton for a while, and I think I told the story. I went to Groton, and I went out on a sub before I was getting ready to go to the second phase of the school. And I decided I didn't like submarines; they were a little too small. I wasn't this big back then, but I was 6'4",
Right, which is
and
means you're bent
and I was
over
and I was in
most
good
of the time.
shape. But not that I'm claustrophobic. I didn't like the fact that they're starting to say, "Oh, sometimes it may be 6 or 7 days before you see the light." And I just said, I'm not sitting in a sardine can. So I actually went AWOL for 3 days to get out of the program.
Do they know that? Are you letting something out?
No. I think I went AWOL. So so when I went AWOL, they wanted to discipline me, and I knew that was a way to get out of having to go to that. So I ended up going to a regular aircraft carrier after that. I'll tell you though, there was a lot of cool stuff with that though. It was, and submarines. I mean, they are amazing.
They are.
Wasn't for
But but they're amazing, but they're not for Tom.
Well, they
They're
talk.
not for Tom?
No.
Well, here's the
That's
thing: is
okay.
that they've got two different types: fast attacks and boomers. And the boomers will actually go out and they will sometimes sit underwater for 80, 90 days at a time.
Oh, those are the ones that would just float around waiting for a war? Mm-hmm. Okay. Boomers, which meant
boom.
boom. We boom.
Cub boomers.
We boom.
But I mean, what I found out from guys later on was the best food in the Navy though was on the subs.
Oh,
Really?
always.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's one thing I missed out on, but I had a good time. It was enjoyable. I mean, I learned a lot in the military. I can't say it's what made me the man I am today, but I definitely learned a lot out of the military and learned about myself. And
Had some adventures.
Anybody that goes in the military, I commend them for it. And if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
agree.
just it.
Indeed. Bobby, what a pleasure to have you on the show today. Any parting shots for folks that are thinking about selling that house? What are some of the fast track things that you can do as a homeowner that are the least expensive too, to kind of gloss it up,
Flowers.
make it good? Okay.
Flowers, definitely. I mean, if it's the time of year where you can plant flowers, even if you just put pots of flowers on the focal point, consider the doorway, the entranceway as your focal point, and spruce that up. Add some flowers, add some pots of flowers, add anything that attracts the attention to your front door, and they probably won't see anything else until they move in.
Yeah. How about inside? Potted plants and one here,
Well,
one
I
there,
think
sort
potted
of thing.
plants
Yeah?
always. I think some green inside the house, live green, is always is something good.
Makes it good. All
Makes it
righty.
pretty.
Yeah, makes it very pretty.
You got to watch out though too. Like we've got a cat, likes to eat the plants.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My wife loves plants. First of all, she loves it. We've got them all over our main
Spray
level.
them with hot pepper.
Well,
That'll straighten
cat
the
likes
cat
hot
out.
pepper for some dumb reason.
Oh, it's a Spanish cat.
No, it's my son. It's my son's cat, and I don't know what. Never mind.
Now, Tom, I want to set up what we're going to talk about next week on the show. Renting of houses. So you own a property, you want to rent that rascal out. There's a lot of companies out there that are helping facilitate that sort of thing. And so you've got a house, you're renting it out. What might be issues, problems as you want to get into another property or, something else? Are there problems? Are there pitfalls, things to look out for when you own a rental or two rentals or one that you used to live in, et cetera? So I just want to set that up. That's what we're going to talk about next week.
It's going to be a good one too because there's a lot of deceiving things out there that people need to be aware about. But it is a good thing to be able to rent your property out, but you need to know how it's going to affect you.
All right. So the credit level, cash flow level, there's a lot of different things to be wary of. Yeah.
The biggest one's going to come into qualifying, depending upon
Okay.
what the situation is with the rental and if you're buying another property and how long you've owned and stuff like that. Everybody wants to get into investment property.
Sure.
But there's some tricks that you got to be aware of.
And might there be some pitfalls too with some of those companies that'll help you facilitate it? I mean, there's got to be some things to look out for in terms of how much money are they asking for, what are their percentages, and what are they going to do for you as
Exactly.
well?
Exactly. I mean, obviously the one main one that we know, I know they do a really good job. I know some people that are utilizing them and stuff like that. My big thing is you hear different things on the radio or the TV. You don't hear the whole story. And that's part of what the show's about, is giving people the information that gives them the whole story.
All right. So
I'd really like to learn about that. That sounds very interesting.
Listen up to Mortgages and BS.
I think
week.
I'll just have to do that.
I think you'll have to get that podcast
Especially
on your
the
smartphone
BS
there, Bob.
part seems to be working really good here.
Well, now, Bobby and I got to
Thank
find.
you for your contribution in that
Thank you.
regard.
My
today.
pleasure.
Bobby and I got to find a bar somewhere on 42 between the houses now we hook up at.
Yeah,
that sounds
that's
good.
true. Well, there's a few.
What was the old one? Bull Rushes or whatever? I can't remember.
Out in your old neighborhood there?
Yeah,
or your current neighborhood?
Well, there's a couple down by yours that have live music and stuff on the weekend.
Some of them, most of them go out of business though rather quickly.
We just meet at the Buffalo Tap too.
We could go to the Buffalo Tap.
All right.
No music, but good burgers.
It sounds like there's a plan
we
in
got
place.
a plan. We got a plan.
Do we invite BT though?
BT, you're invited, buddy.
All right. So
You're
there's
invited.
a plan in place for the three boys here on the show this week, and there's a plan in place for the show
So we're
next
doing a
week.
show from Pat's Bar.
From Pat's Tap and down
And
where
then
you guys
someplace
live.
in it. I'm liking this show.
All right,
You know, I want to
see?
see us do a show with a couple beers in us. That could be kind of interesting.
All right. Well, maybe we'll weave that into next week's show as well.
Just
did
make
that
sure we
on
got a
our
car
inaugural
outside to
show.
drive us because
That's
got to be
right.
safe.
We need to talk about our format when we put our show together. I like this format.
Yeah, the beer idea.
The beer
too?
idea.
Oh yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a good idea.
All right, very good.
We'll just kind of ramble and go.
Well,
You do it well.
Thank you very much, Tom. Good to see you this week, my brother.
BT, good to see you. Bobby, great meeting you. I mean,
Hey,
all these
man.
years.
All these
awesome
years, we
meeting you.
lived like close to each other and
Exactly.
everything.
And you got to hang out with my favorite girlfriend, Belinda Jensen. Oh, my. I just love Belinda.
Nobody says that. Nobody says they like me.
Oh,
I
yeah,
like
no,
you,
we-
too.
They
but
say you're that guy.
You're
You're that guy.
I don't think you're not
What's
gonna-
your daughter's name? What?
I was gonna go
you're not going to look the same in a
Glad
pair of
you
leather
said
pants at a Timberwolves
Right,
game like
no.
Belinda does.
What's your daughter's
What's
name?
your daughter's name? Who?
Thanks, boys. We'll see you next week.
See you. Thanks.
All right, that's fine.